Hi everyone, I'm Peter Frintrup, and today I'm joined by the magical Sarah Gurfield.
Magical?
Magical. She's the director of the comedy digital series The Mothers, and we had the privilege of working together. So tell me a little bit about your previous experience to working on this project. What was working in post like for you?
Working in post still feels new to me. I come from theater, and where there is no post, there's just like opening night. So even though I've been doing film stuff for over 10 years now, compared to how long I've been doing theater, it feels relatively new. And I feel like the post process has ranged from really like easy and good and smooth, which is I think pretty much what I felt about ours, to things that are much more challenging, not in a good way.
And how do you prepare for going into a day of editing, maybe differently than how you prepare for directing on set? What is the difference for you as a director?
I mean, as a director, they're completely different processes. So preparing for a day of editing, I know whatever the current cut is really well, and I have my list of what I'd like to see different, what I'd like to try, what I'd like to hear different, and I bring that in ready to go. So I come in with as many ideas as I can possibly come up with on how to make something better. And then I come in and I fight with you and we figure out how many of those are good and how many of them are stupid.
When you find that something isn't working, and do you find that for you it's worth pushing in the process of editing to figure that out in that moment, or do you find that it's best to kind of move into a different world for a bit?
I think there are certain moments, and I feel like we only had, I think, one in the process on the first couple episodes of The Mothers, where if something's not working and you do a million little things to try to fix it and it still doesn't feel like it's working, sometimes you do have to step back and you do have to look at the larger context and you do have to kind of try to come at it from a different angle, but it's not always helpful to do it right then and there, right? Like you might need sometimes just a coffee break, or sometimes just, let's move on to the next scene, or the scene prior, or 3 scenes prior, and when we come back to it, it either is working or it's more clear to us what we have to do.
So working on The Mothers as a comedy, what was the most difficult or challenging part that you had to solve in post?
I feel like we had a challenging location. It was amazing in so many ways. It looked beautiful, but it's this kind of big farm space, a lot of exteriors, a lot of traffic going by. So there are just a lot of challenges, particularly with the audio.
You assume as a filmmaker that shooting outside is going to be ideal because you can get a lot done, natural light is going to be easier to work with. But I think the one thing people forget about is that in comedy, that ability to hear a line or the timing of the line and to manipulate that in post is a lot harder when you have background noise, or if you're trying to isolate sounds that aren't always there, like pigs and chickens and all the other assorted things we had in your soundtrack.
There was that one amazing moment where someone like dropped a line, or someone went up and we were like, okay, go back to this, and then a sheep from the sheep pen went like meh, and then all the women were trying so hard not to break, and finally Jenica just goes meh, and everyone on set died.
So for you working in the post-production process as a director, how is it different when you work so closely with a writer-creator like Rebecca Mooney?
I mean, it's a very different setup, right? Being a director on someone else's project than it is when I do my own stuff. Luckily, in this instance, Becky and I were really on the same page for almost, there was maybe, we were on the same page for like 99% of everything. And that really helped. I mean, I can envision a world where if that was not the case, that would make it really hard. You would be put in a very awkward position. We did a lot of prep before each session with you, just getting on the same page, literally and figuratively, making sure we were looking at the same version of our lists to bring in, so that we knew, A, that we had the same project in mind, and B, that we weren't going to waste your time.
So would you say that ReKon has helped make your overall storytelling ability in your post-production world better?
ReKon has been fantastic. It's kind of like what we were talking about before. Every project, no matter what medium, no matter what budget, every project is going to have challenges. And I felt like at every challenge and at every step of the way, ReKon had good ideas for problem solving, good troubleshooting skills, which obviously is huge, and I think we're all really happy with the ultimate product.
At ReKon, we want to tell stories. That's our goal all the time. We know our storytellers and filmmakers want to do the same. Did we help you to kind of bring out more from your story and tell your story?
I think absolutely. ReKon was responsible for something like 75% of our cast.
True.
Yeah, and but when I say responsible, I mean it was ReKon's connections. It was people ReKon had worked with. But again, I feel like ReKon was a huge contributor to the casting. And in terms of the keys, I felt like ReKon brought a lot of really wonderful people to the table, yourself included.
Thank you.
Obviously, of course. We felt really well supported, which
great.
is really important on a project like this. When, it was obviously a low budget endeavor, and to make those dollars stretch the way Leslie did is just not in everyone's wheelhouse to do, and she was fantastic.
So, what is it about ReKon? What do we do?
ReKon shares stories.